I'm Cameron, and the Roaring Twenties was just the start of movies. With technology expanding, it shaped the way we see movies today. From silent films to talkies, new ideas and techniques were developing rapidly. The very first motion picture to ever be created, A Horse in Motion by Edward Murbridge in 1886. This was a simple 4-frame video of a man riding a horse. Later, in 1895, two men named Louis and Augustus Lumiere invented the first projector. This had been the best way to show motion pictures. Exponentially, motion pictures expanded, and before long, a scientific novelty became one of the world's most beloved forms of entertainment.
Many of the films produced during this era were produced by the actors who starred in them, such as in the case of Charlie Chaplin. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin was an English comic actor who rose to fame during the era of silent film. Some of his greatest films were The Gold Rush, The Circus, and A Woman of Paris. And these movies gave people hope that they might also find their way in show business, such as in the case of Lillian Gush, who was nicknamed the First Lady of American Cinema. She was born in Springfield, Ohio. Prior to her first screen appearance, Lillian Gush had a very successful stage career, and in a vintage quote, "Hers is one of the finest personalities seen upon the screen, and her work before the cameras stamps her as one of the greatest of screen tragedians."
Hey, I'm Justice, and I will be talking about how big of an impact talkies made in the 1920s. Talkies, also known as talking pictures, were motion pictures with synchronized sound effects that became a global phenomenon by the early 1930s. With talkies in the picture, motion pictures accelerated at an amazing rate. With the improved technology talking films had, certain competition at the time, such as vaudeville, could not keep up. The jobs of the musicians that provided the live score to many of the original silent movies were in huge danger due to the fact that they were no longer needed now that motion pictures had the technology to have sound and film.
Hey, I'm Moran talking about Birth of a Nation, a movie that came out on February 8, 1915. This silent film was America's first feature-length motion picture and a box office smash. But one pretty big thing that this film is known as one of the most offensive films ever made. It was actually titled The Klansman for its first months of release. This film provides a highly subjective history of the Civil War, Reconstruction, and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. This film follows the fictional lives of two families from the North and the South. African Americans are portrayed as brash, lazy, morally degenerate, and dangerous. In the film's climax, the Ku Klux Klan rises up to save the South from the Reconstruction era prominence of African Americans in Southern public life.
Hey guys, it's Luke. I'm going to talk about the impact that film had on society in the 1920s. In the 1920s, movies were part of the growth of a mass consumer culture that emerged. Movies were able to be consumed by the people at large and helped to feed the belief that the 1920s was a decade of self-glorification and projection of self. Now that movies were able to be consumed by people at large, news and information was spread much quicker. In fact, that's how most people got the news. They went to the theaters. Another impact that film had on society was that film really started a new era of entertainment. Before this period, film was still not completely available to the masses, and people had other forms of entertainment. Films really changed the scene when it came to the new entertainment. The emergence of a mass consumer culture during this time also convinced a nation deeply divided by race, class, ethnicity, and gender that it shared a common identity. The new consumer culture created national heroes that all Americans could celebrate.